That was probably a very, very wild card weekend for a lot of games. And then you had the Texans and Steelers, and probably the Chargers and Patriots. Division round should be better though, hopefully. Hey there, Peace Detective Uber here. We have officially gotten past Wild Card weekend, and now there are just 7 games left to crown a winner in Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara, California. Um, Obviously, I didn't get every single game right. I went 4-2 last week, with me only missing the 3 versus 6 matchups in each conference. The Niners beat the Eagles, and the Bills beat the Jaguars. So we sit at 4-2, which brings our total record in just pick'ems in general to 172 and 107 and 1, or 105 and 1. So going forward, there's no more bracket. We'll look at it towards like when we talk about the Super Bowl. Divisional round matchups now. There are 4 games to predict. This may be a shorter stream due to that, just because, again, not as many games. We don't have to talk as much as we did last time, but hopefully we'll get some more. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more of a idea of who's going to be potentially playing for the Super Bowl this year. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. Starting off with a very, very crucial game. I guess they're all crucial at this point. What am I saying? The first game is a. I want to look at the schedule again real quick. It should be a 3:30 kickoff time for me, which means it is a 4:30 Eastern Standard Time kickoff for all the Eastern folk, which is where a lot of people are at. You have the Buffalo Bills, the 6th-seeded Buffalo Bills, taking on the 1-seeded Denver Broncos. The Bills. It was probably a help of that Lawrence threw 2 picks in this game, but still the Bills came up strong when they needed to most, pulling out a victory by 3. 261 total passing yards by Josh Allen led the way. And while Jacksonville was able to hold the rushing game down to just 79 yards, the Bills found the answer in their offense through the air. Josh Allen, as I said, threw for over 250 yards. He got a touchdown and a sack. He played a pretty damn good game, all things considered. He also rushed for 2 touchdowns, so Allen really playing lights out when he needed to most, which is something the Bills are going to have to do against Denver, which, as I mentioned before, one of the best defenses in the entire league. They're among, I believe, top 5 in terms of total defense and points allowed. So the defense has definitely been the Broncos' strong suit this year. In terms of the offense, though, it's a little bit of a different story. Yes, they picked up some momentum on the way, but it hasn't always been the most consistent. However, when Bo Nix is playing his best, this team is a really difficult team to beat. The Broncos finished this season 14-3, with their only 3 losses coming in against the Colts, the Chargers at the beginning of the year in weeks 2 and 3, and then they lost to the Jaguars back in week 16. So they've been able to sustain success for quite a long time this season. The Bills, on the other hand, haven't really found a whole lot of it, but more so towards the end of the year. But as for this game, ooh. The big matchup is going to be that Bills rushing game and Josh Allen versus the Denver defense. And it's going to be a really tough thing to predict because, as I said, Denver has been one of the most lethal defenses in the entire league. It's very, very hard to win these big games against this squad. As for the Bills, once they get hot, they are also really hard to stop. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup on that side. However, you can't undermine the matchup on the other side of the ball. Can the Bills secondary, who's been hot all season long, really step up when they need to? And can the Bills rushing D, which has not been very good this season, find success in stopping the Denver run game? As for the Denver offense, can Bo Nix put together 4 quarters of really solid football? And if he can, they may have a good time. Trying to try to keep this a high scoring game. Potentially, if that defense somehow struggles this upcoming game. These two teams faced off against each other a few years ago, last season, I believe, with the Bills winning in the wild card round at Orchard Park. But this time around, both teams have a little bit more experience. The Bills obviously trying to get back to the AFC Championship game and to the Super Bowl this season. The Broncos just trying to make progress. They have the number 1 seed. They really don't want it to put it to waste. However, I think I am going to go with the Buffalo Bills in this game just because I think the experience from Josh Allen is going to be too much to overcome in this one. And I just feel like the Bills are peaking at a really good time, and that's going to catch Denver off guard. And if they have to be playing from behind, yes, I know they've made some miraculous comebacks before, but the Bills don't typically blow these kinds of leads. They may let teams back into the game, but they don't necessarily blow them. So, give me the Bills in this one. It's going to be really interesting for that first game in Mile High, though. Next up, though, going to the other side of the bracket, we have the other top seed playing on Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time or 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For all of those out there, you got the San Francisco 49ers as the 6th seed taking on the 1st-seeded Seattle Seahawks. The 49ers, it was a bit of a struggle to get to a victory against Philadelphia, especially with George Kittle going down and for the rest of the season. However, the Niners offense really put the nail in the coffin with the Jennings touchdown pass to CMC, and the 49ers were able to hold down the Eagles offense just enough to pull out a 23-19 win in Philadelphia last week. The reward for it, they get to go to Seattle and take on the best defense in the entire league. The Seahawks defense is very good, and it shows. They're the number 1 defense in terms of yards, and I believe second at the very least in points allowed. So this defense, so to speak, is very good. They also get to take on Sam Darnold, who's been trying to find a little bit of redemption in himself this year after laying the egg in Minnesota last year. The Seahawks found themselves a really stable quarterback. Their head coach this year is definitely going to be got to be at least considered for Coach of the Year, if not the front runner for Coach of the Year. So, Mike McDonald, yes. It's going to be very interesting to see how these two teams play out. Because we saw back in week 1 when these two teams played initially, San Francisco controlled the game, managed to squeak out a victory with a bunch of errors from Sam Darnold and such. The Seahawks, though, that was only one of 3 losses this entire season. The second one came against Tampa Bay a few weeks later in Seattle, and the final one in LA. But they've been on a tear since then. Haven't lost a game since that thriller against LA in the Rams Dome where Sam Darnold really shot himself in the foot there. They've won 7 in a row since that time. So, it's going to be an interesting matchup. And the last time these two teams played, 2 weeks ago in the finale in week 18, where Seattle shut down the San Francisco offense in a 13-3 victory. Sam Darnold didn't have to do much that day. Seattle's defense was the big story of that one. However, things have changed a little bit since then. Obviously, San Francisco lost George Kittle, but they've also been suffering from some more injuries. However, if there's one thing that's really keeping San Francisco in this game, in my opinion, it's the coaching. For whatever reason, this team is being coached in a way where they can succeed with injuries. And Kyle Shanahan, even though people like associate him with the 28-3 fiasco or the two blown Super Bowl leads to the Chiefs, the 49ers have actually been really, really stable these past few years. And give credit to him for all of that. However, I think this time around, the 49ers are going to have their hands full, especially taking on a much more elite defense. Not that Phillies was bad or anything. It's just that Seattle's is just that good. The defense is also going to have a tough time taking on a much more stable offense than what Philly was able to show forth. So, in this game, I'm going to Seattle. I think, especially being played in Seattle, with Seattle on a bit of a hot streak right now, it's going to be tough to beat this team. And I would not. And this is my Super Bowl pick for those of you who weren't here last week when I made these predictions. So Seattle's definitely taking this one, in my opinion. It'd be kind of a shock. This was probably my easiest pick of the week, just because the 49ers are just flat out banged up, and I don't really trust that going forward. Next up, though, ooh, this is gonna be spicy. You got the Houston Texans taking on the New England Patriots, the fifth-seeded Texans against the second-seeded Patriots. The Texans. Whew, that was a. It took a little bit, but man, did that defense lay down on Pittsburgh. They laid the hammer down on the Steelers in the fourth quarter. 13 points provided from that defense, with the defense picking up a strip sack touchdown return early in the fourth, and then a dagger with a pick six and potentially Rodgers' final throw in the NFL. So, definitely a great way to send him off, in my opinion. The Texans, though, that defense has been proven to be really, really damn lethal. However, the Steelers, that weren't exactly the best offense in the entire league. The Patriots is going to be a much different story. The Patriots took care of business against the Chargers. That defense had its way with Justin Herbert, sacking him how many times? I gotta say, six times. They took advantage of that very weak O line in LA and took away a 16-3 victory. Now, this one is going to be a lower scoring game, in my opinion. Both of these defenses are going to be very, very dominant in this game. However, there's one issue that I'm still wrapping my head around. It's the Patriots having a very, very weak strength of schedule, and the Texans just roaring at a great time right now. The Texans, yes, I know their O-line isn't that great, but it's been much more stable these last few weeks. CJ Stroud's been able to get more of his plays off, and while the Texans' offense hasn't been the most productive, especially last week, it's still going to be good enough to win games. And the Patriots' offense, I'm not sure if they've really faced a defense as good as Houston's is right now. Will the Texans' defense carry them to a Super Bowl? I don't know. But I think it does do enough to get past this game. Give me the Texans in an upset here. I would not be surprised if the Patriots won. If you going in this game, a strategy if New England could potentially pick up is just take advantage of the rushing, to have the O-line make stands, and give Drake May time to make plays. If he can do that, the Patriots do have a really good shot at winning this one. And for the Texans, you gotta protect CJ Stroud. The Patriots defense is no joke either. They've played pretty damn well all around. But I think the Texans can do enough to hold him off. And yeah, I gotta go with Houston in this one. It's gonna be a really tight game though, very low scoring. I'll make score predictions here after a little while though. And I'll probably predict all the way up to the Super Bowl, just in case. And show you what my bracket looks like. Anyways, the final game of the divisional round. Oh boy. This is going to be a good one. This is like a true coin flip. You got the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Chicago Bears. The 5th-seeded Rams taking on the 2-seeded Bears. The Rams. Oh, that was a scare. They allowed the Panthers to crawl back in this game, including taking a very, very late fourth quarter lead. However, a very, very late 31-27 lead in the fourth quarter. However, LA this time was able to put a drive down, and Matthew Stafford was able to do very magical things. Got them, drove down for a game-sealing touchdown, and the defense made a stand against Bryce Young. However, should it have probably come down to that? Probably not. However, I did say last week, expect Carolina to make a game of it, and they absolutely did. So I feel happy about that one. As for the Bears, that they also got a break last week. The comeback kids are just doing just that pretty much. They were down at one point 21-3, come back to win the game 27-30 or 31-27 over their arch rival Green Bay Packers. And Chicago fans, you've got to be feeling really, really good about that result. Especially considering the heartbreak they gave you in all those years under Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, and what so what. The Bears. Both of these teams have issues. They have real issues. The Rams just cannot put consistent football out there. It's either the defense is going to be strong one day and the offense just falls off, or the offense is going to have a really, really good day like last week, but then the defense just keeps allowing teams to get back into games. And the block punt on special teams as well. Yeah, they probably got away with it considering Carolina scored really quickly, giving the Rams time, but they can't really afford to do that against the Bears. However, if you're the Bears, you got to take advantage of the turnovers. The Packers offense lost the ball 4 times. However, they never coughed up possession of the football once in those 4 fumbled plays. Were they close? Definitely. But the Bears just need to be able to take advantage of when their opponents make mistakes. And another big thing, they've got to show up earlier. Because against the Rams, a bit more stable of an offense, you're not going to be able to make those big stops as you did against Green Bay. It's going to be a much tougher game for the Bears if they basically repeat what they did last week. They got to be able to put 4 quality quarters of football together. And in this one, it's a really, really big toss-up. It's being played in Chicago. I don't know what the weather's going to be like there, but no, it's going to be really, really damn cold. Really cold. So, with that in mind, I think I might... It's a real big coin flip, but I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears in this one. I like the offense of being led by Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson a bit more against the Rams defense than I do with Matthew Stafford in the Bears defense. It's a very weird take, but Stafford doesn't really play as well in the cold since he's been with the Rams, and it's going to be a big factor in this one, at the very least. You saw it last season with the Rams playing in the snow against the Philadelphia Eagles, who went on to win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying Chicago will go to the Super Bowl. They would have to go to Seattle after this if my predictions stand. But I think it's going to play a big factor for Chicago having a big advantage being played in Chicago. So, give me the Bears in this one. I would not be shocked if the Rams win. It's a true coin flip this week. And we might as well go through the NFC and AFC championships. The NFC Championship, it's the exact same for my bracket, and I still think the Seahawks are just going to manhandle the Bears, considering that the Seahawks just have a much better defense and a much more stable offense than the 2 teams the Bears played prior to this hypothetical matchup. And yeah, the Bears just we'll see, but it may not get very easy for them. And for the Bills and Texans, this is probably the coin flip. If you thought this game was for me was tough, this is even tougher. The Bills, led by Josh Allen. I don't think I mentioned this last week, but I thought the winner of this game, the Bills and Jaguars, could have a really good shot of going to the Super Bowl because the Bills match up well with Denver and the Jaguars matched up well with New England. So this one is really tough though because Houston is not is. I feel like Jacksonville would have stood up better with Houston than Buffalo would, but the thing is, it's a really really tough time to really win with defense these days. It's just that difficult. I'm not saying it can't be done. I mean, Seattle's doing it right now on this side of the bracket. However, Josh Allen, he's had a lot of playoff experience. He knows if he can't get it done this season, when is he ever? There's no Chiefs, there's no Ravens, there's no Bengals to really knock him out this time around. And I think Houston, again, this would be their first AFC Championship appearance ever in the history of the franchise. So, while I would congratulate the Texans for getting this far, I would have to go with the Bills in this game. Just because it's just very, very difficult to win these big games in this league. And then finally, Super Bowl 60. Right now, with the Jaguars being out, I have the Seahawks and Bills. I'd still give it to the Seahawks, though. Just because the Seahawks, that defense is just really too lethal. It's being played on the West Coast, which means the Bills would have to travel pretty damn far. Seattle wouldn't exactly. And the Bills don't have a lot of Super Bowl experience. Seattle kind of doesn't really either. But I think in terms of this game, I think the offense for Seattle would do just enough to really beat out the Bills secondary, and the Seahawks defense is going to make Josh Allen make mistakes in the big game. And yeah, give me Seattle to win Super Bowl 60 still. Now, if you excuse me for a second, I'm going to make score predictions real quick. So, starting with the first game, the Bills and the Broncos. I could easily see this being a high scoring or a low scoring game. It's going to depend on which defense, whether the defenses or the offenses really control the tempo of this game. I am going to lean towards the middle a little bit, going to be a little bit more conservative. Give me about 27-24 Buffalo to take this game. In the second game, with the Seahawks and the 49ers, I almost expect it to be a blowout, but I'm not going to quite predict that. I'm going to say 30-20. The Seahawks roll the 49ers. In the third game between the Texans and the Patriots, I think the defense, like I said, is going to control the game on both sides, but I think the Texans are going to make the bigger plays in the end to really control the game. Give me the Texans 24-14 over the Patriots. And finally, the Rams and Bears. I expect this to be a higher scoring game. It's going to be a lot of touchdowns in this game. But at the end, I think the Bears do pull it off. I'm going to give them a 35-31 victory over the Rams. And yeah, those will be my divisional round score predictions at the very least. Now, if you excuse me a second, I'm going to pull up my bracket just because I want to show you what a little bit of it is before I end things off. Just give me a second. Let me pull it up. Alrighty, there I have it pulled up now. As you can see, I had the Niners, or the Eagles and the Jaguars winning their respective games. I would have liked Jacksonville over New England still, considering if the Jacksonville offense was really playing well. I think Trevor Lawrence would have learned to be able to control the turnovers a little bit more. I think they would beat New England. And then in this game, I still would have predicted Jacksonville just because they're a really good team and being played in Jacksonville is going to make a big difference. And then for the Eagles, still would have picked Chicago. That offense is just horrendous for Philly. Kevin Fatullo has been demoted, as from what I've been hearing. And then obviously all the picks would still be the same. I still would have Seattle winning the Super Bowl. And yeah, it's just it's gonna be a really interesting. It's gonna be an interesting season's end with 7 games to go. You can kind of look at some of these previews real quick. Like for example, in this one, as it pulls up real quick. Yeah, Denver's the slight favorite in this one. I believe New England's going to be a favorite in their game. LA may be the favorite against the Bears. And then in the Seahawks and 49ers, I think Seattle's easily the favorite. But still, it's going to be a really interesting time as we move forward into the final weeks of the season. But I think that's going to be it for me today, just because it's going to be a shorter stream. I didn't expect it to be too long, just because, yeah. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, be sure to share the channel around, and it helps me grow. Um, hmm. Let me know what your takes are on. Do you think Seattle's gonna win the Super Bowl as well, or do you have like maybe the Bills or the Broncos, maybe even like a team like the Rams winning the Super Bowl this season? Let me know. And in terms of my schedule, um, yeah, I will. It looks like Sonic Rumble is going to be the game tomorrow, pending any surprising changes in the results. There's 20 votes in. Sonic Rumble's up by 30, up by a single vote. So if you want to make the difference, you vote VR chat. It looks like that's probably going to be the second highest in finishing one. Golf, Uno, etc. Yeah, it's just, and then the Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. It was pretty popular, but still, I think it's easily Rumble or VR chat. I will do VR though, probably on Monday if it doesn't win. So keep an eye out on that one. And then Sunday I might do something. I don't know quite yet. Maybe I might do some golf with some friends. I may do Uno, whatever. I may get Maddie back for more Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. Who knows? I might even play a different game. Who really can tell at this point? So I think it's gonna be it from me. But with that being said, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, be sure to share the channel around. It helps me grow. Um, Let me know if there's like other games that I just may have missed. Um, and let me know what your takes are on all of this, because I am very excited to see how this season ends. I want to try to get Andrew in for a Super Bowl prediction like we did last year. This time on my channel. So, but with that being said, see you later, peeps. Thanks for watching.